What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. The YouTube gods have spoken. They heard me talking in the background and they spit out a video that is absolutely dynamite. I watched a little bit of it to try and get some kind of idea of what's going on. It's Johnny Rotten named 7 bands he hated the most. Now, if you know who Johnny Rotten is, then we're on the same page. If you don't know who Johnny Rotten is, he was the front man to the Sex Pistols, the original punk band, the band that blazed their own trail. They stayed away from corporate. They did what they had to do to stay original, to stay themselves, and stay punk. This new stuff that what people call punk is not punk. If you're not a Sex Pistols fan, I understand. It was a really hard band to get into. Their style was harsh. Because of them, I got into what we called in Connecticut hardcore bands. They were types of punk bands. We were not the best talented musicians, but we got our message out, we got things accomplished, and we made music the punk way, the hardcore way. And this is really cool because Johnny Rotten goes after a couple of people that I've definitely had my own comments about, and it really kind of reinforces the separation between generations and the separation between what is now and what was and what started everything. Now, when you've got a whole lot of copycats putting stuff out, all of a sudden the copycats are what everybody sees and they miss the originality of it. If you haven't listened to the Sex Pistols, then go on YouTube, go on Spotify, go on some kind of music forum and listen. They are punk. They are what drove the skaters, the freestyle BMX crew, the surfers. They got surf punk going. They got MOD, SOD, the surf punks. All those guys are because of the Sex Pistols. The Sex Pistols took what the Kinks did and twisted it and made it their own. They made their own types of music. Sid, may he rest in peace. Everybody dogs on his inability to play bass, but he fit the part. We had the leather jackets, the spikes, the collars, the black makeup. It was punk. That was punk. This is amazing. Let's watch this, see if I can keep my mouth shut through a little bit of it because we're reacting to it, so I'm definitely got a lot to say about this video. Really appreciate you guys clicking on the video. Hit that subscribe button. We got all kinds of different reactions going on. We also do guitar, bass, drum, vocal covers, originals, improvs, all kinds of music and recording content. Comments are always appreciated. Are you guys punk? Are you metal? Are you specifically one genre? Do you spread out? I know I spread out over a bunch of different genres. There's a lot of types of music that I really like. There's certain ones that will tick off things that just swing moods. So I stay away from those. Rather simple. Let's see what old Johnny Rotten's got to say and who he's dogging on.
The Sex Pistols was going to be the absolute end of rock and roll, which I thought it was. Unfortunately, the majority of the public, being the senile animals that they are, got that wrong.
Johnny Rotten has never been the type to stay quiet. Whether it was slamming the Queen or calling out his own bandmates, he's always said what was on his mind. No filter, no sugarcoating. But when it comes to other bands, let's just say he's got a list, and it's not pretty. Join us as we break down the 7 bands Johnny Rotten hated the most and why.
We've all got our lists. We've all got our lists. Bands we don't like and bands we absolutely love. And bands that we will support to the end of time. It's all how we are as humans.
7. Green.
This is almost how punk are you kind of video. You going to agree with Johnny or you going to go with other people?
If there's one band that's been on the receiving end of Johnny Rotten's anger, then it's Green Day. You'd think Johnny might respect them. After all, Green Day were heavily inspired by punk pioneers like the Sex Pistols, But that's exactly the problem. Rotten believes Green Day copied him and got rich doing it. It all started back in 1996. The Sex Pistols were gearing up for their big reunion tour, the Filthy Lucre tour.
Don't get me wrong, when Green Day hit the scene, I was all about Green Day. I loved the music. I loved what they did. I didn't really care for their look, but I never really cared for Green Day's look. They weren't punk. They were the new alternative style that was not the leather jackets and the spiked collars. They changed things to their style, which is also a punk kind of thing to do, but let's see what he's got to say.
Even though the tour was basically a money grab, and Johnny admitted it, he still used the spotlight to throw punches at newer bands. Green Day, who were hugely popular at the time, became his target. When MTV asked Johnny what the Sex Pistols could offer a 16-year-old punk fan that Green Day couldn't, he replied with a smirk, "A big willy." Then he got serious. He said fans had only seen imitators and didn't know what real punk looked like. He called bands like Green Day wanky third-rate outfits and said they had no real content. He didn't stop there. In another interview, he said, "There ain't no trashy little love songs in this outfit," talking about the Pistols. Then he snapped at the MTV reporter.
That's a very good point. That is an absolute huge point. Is Sex Pistols didn't have any love songs. There was none of that. It was punk. It was anti-establishment, anti-politics, anti-government, anti-law, anarchy. It was punk.
Did the interview with "Bye Bye, Now Fee Off," classic Johnny Rotten style, rude, raw, and unfiltered. Of course, Green Day heard about it. Billy Joe Armstrong, the band's frontman, told Spin magazine the next year, "If it wasn't for the Sex Pistols, there may not have been Green Day. But if it wasn't for Green Day, the Sex Pistols wouldn't have done their big reunion tour." A bold comeback, showing Billy wasn't backing down. But
See, oddly enough, even metal bands will say that other bands like the Kinks and Sex Pistols and the Misfits were really heavy metal, but they were pre-heavy metal. So they're all influences. But everybody's got influences, but you can't turn around and, what did he say?
wasn't for Green Day, the Sex Pistols wouldn't have done their big reunion tour. A bold comeback, showing
I mean, okay, many other punk bands could have given the Sex Pistols the push to do a reunion tour. With Sid out of the picture, it's only most of the band anyways. So you lost the main punk driver behind the band, who was Sid, and then the rest of the band that made the music. I mean, it's a hard line to walk.
Wasn't backing down. But Johnny wasn't done. After Green Day's American Idiot became a massive hit in the 2000s, Rotten took another swing. On Steve Jones' radio show, his old bandmate,
that's when
Johnny
they went
said
full
Green
commercial
Day were hokey
and,
little silly
sold
sods
out.
who were fooling themselves into thinking they were fighting the system. In his words, "You've become part of it." He added, "We made it easy for them to come in and nick our things off us, which is all right, it's nice, but they're silly, rich fat kids." That insult stuck. Rotten wasn't just calling them copycats, he was saying they didn't understand real punk at all. Even when he wasn't directly asked about Green Day, Johnny found ways to throw shade. When talking about one of his favorite records, the Raincoats' 1979 debut, he said it was a million miles away from the blancmange that is Green Day. He compared their music to a mix of a Johnny Rotten first verse, a Billy Idol chorus, and a sham 69-second verse. His point? That Green Day were a sloppy copy of others, with no true identity. And if you thought...
And they did what they're told, how they were told, like good little puppets. And yeah, they weren't real punk.
This was all just for show, just Johnny being Johnny, think again. In a 2011 interview with the LA Times, he made it clear, "I really can't stand them. He called them coat hangers and said they hadn't earned the right to be called punk. Why? Because they didn't suffer like he did. We had to fight for every single footstep, he said, referring to the violence, hate, and pressure the original punks went through.
Oh, yeah.
The final blow came in 2018. Johnny was talking to the New York Times about the state of modern punk and couldn't resist taking another jab at Green Day. He said, "It is embarrassing, really. How many bands are out there like Green Day now? I look at them and I just have to laugh." He repeated his old insult, calling them coat hangers and saying they were just a turgid version of something that doesn't actually belong to them. So, while most bands might brush off criticism or move on, Johnny Rotten kept his grudge alive for over 2 decades. From calling
calling Green Day rich kids, I mean, yeah, if you grew up rich kids, then you're not going to understand the punk struggle because you weren't there. You can't have the mentality. You can't have the idea. You would never understand it. You got your own trials and struggles, but it's not the same. If you get stuff handed to you and your band is handed to you and you didn't have to struggle, they just started making albums, then yeah, no, that's not, nope.
Rich kids to mocking their style and even their success, it's clear he doesn't just dislike Green Day, he resents what they represent. And that's what makes this feud so unforgettable. It's not just about music, it's about identity, rebellion, and who gets to call themselves punk. Number 6, Hole. One of Johnny's most harshly judged targets was Courtney Love and her band, Hole. While Hole is remembered as one of the big names in alternative rock, Rotten didn't buy into their fame. He believed they were fake, especially Courtney. Rotten's biggest issue was about authenticity. He always believed punk should be raw and real. That meant
Yeah, but Hole was alternative, it wasn't punk, so what's it matter?
the truth through your music and not putting on a fake image just to get attention. To him, Hole looked like they were pretending.
They are.
He didn't see their music or message as truly rebellious.
It's not.
In his view, it was all a show.
It is.
What made things worse was Courtney Love's connection to Kurt Cobain. Cobain was a legend, frontman of Nirvana and one of the most respected voices in rock. But Johnny believed Courtney used him to boost her own career.
1,000,000%.
On a 1990s TV interview, he didn't.
That's something that we talked about a lot when it was happening. I mean, that was common knowledge back then. Hole would have never been as big as it was, and it didn't last at all. She had no duration to herself. She burned her bridges faster than she can put them up. And her drug abuse and everything just helped fuel the fire. It was absolutely horrible. She was a wrecking ball, and everybody just got out of the way, and Hole failed. That was a big fail. Big fail.
Back. He said, "Courtney loved Kurt's money." It was a short line, but it said everything.
Facts.
Rotten felt that her fame came more from Cobain's name than her own talent.
It did.
He also called her out for pretending to be something she wasn't. He said, "You love the idea of being a rebel, but you haven't proved to me or anybody exactly what being a rebel is." He didn't believe she stood for anything. To him, she was just playing a part and enjoying the spotlight. He finished with, "You're just a pile of confusion, you cheap fake." Those words made it clear that this wasn't just a small disagreement. Rotten had real anger about what
He doesn't hold back his punches. He says it how it is, because he is punk. He's what it represents and what it's all about. He's not going to pull punches. He's not going to be nice because people to tell him to be nice. He's going to be himself all the time. And Courtney was another puppet. Another puppet. She did what she was told, tried to do what she was told, but her drug abuse destroyed it all. So yeah, it didn't last. It didn't last.
Represented. He felt she stood for everything punk wasn't. Polished, fake, and driven by money, not message.
Yep.
He didn't just see her as a problem. He believed her entire band, Hole, didn't fit into punk's core values. He thought their music was made to look edgy, but lacked real feeling and truth.
Yep.
In his eyes, they were trying too hard to look rebellious, but had nothing honest to say. So while Hole may have had big albums and a loyal fan base, Johnny Rotten saw right through them, or at least he believed he did.
As far as I can remember, there's only like one or two songs that I actually liked from them, and I couldn't even tell you what they are at this point in time.
Him, punk was supposed to challenge the system, not cash in on it. And when he looked at Courtney Lovenhole, all he saw was a fake version of rebellion. Number 5, Guns N' Roses. Johnny Rotten has always made it clear he doesn't want to be part of the music industry crowd. And one of the bands he had a real problem with was Guns N' Roses. His biggest issue, their frontman Axl Rose. Back in 1989, Johnny spoke to Q magazine and didn't hold back. He said, "I don't want the establishment to accept me in any shape or form because I despise them so much." For him, the idea of being praised by rich rock stars or rubbing shoulders at award shows was disgusting. He continued, "I don't want a pat on the back from Phil Collins, thank you." And then he took a direct jab at Guns N' Roses. Johnny mocked the idea of being at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That is the true meaning of anti-establishment. I don't want nothing to do with you whatsoever. I don't want your glorification. I don't want your acknowledgement, but none of it. I'm doing my thing. Leave me alone.
About fake friendships with Axl and the band, he said he didn't want to be part of that fake rock star lifestyle. He even used sarcasm to drive his point home. He pictured the scene, slapping each other on the back, acting like legends. Then he said, "Hello? Hello? Let's wake up here, right?" His message was clear. He thought it was all fake and shallow, and he wanted no part of it. Later, during a...
Glam rock was all about looks. It was metal-ish, heavy metal, hard rock, love ballads. I mean, it was all a show. Glam metal, glam rock was a show. Shallow? Oh boy, was it shallow. The prettier you were, the more popular you were. So it was a beauty contest for dudes in tight leather, colorful outfits with long, fluffy hair. Now, I really am a glam metal fan. I like it. I like a lot of different types of rock. But if you're looking at it through directly a punk lens, yeah, it's really way far out of any kind of league punk wants anything to do with. They don't know with the looks and the glitz and the glam and the showmanship and the stage presence, and it's back to the anti-establishment. Anything that's popular, punk does not want anything to do with.
Interview in the 1990s, the same one where he attacked Courtney Love, Johnny went after Axl Rose again. He mentioned that Axl had once said he liked Johnny's singing style, but instead of feeling flattered, Johnny fired back, "You're a fraud, and I'm underwhelmed." He even mocked Axl's excuse for not meeting him, saying he was in the studio. Rotten didn't believe it, and clearly didn't care. In his memoir, Johnny also took aim at Guns N' Roses music. He said their songs didn't have any content, and that they didn't really stand for anything important. For him,
I disagree with that. Guns N' Roses had a lot of good songs, and some of the covers that they did were done amazingly. Slash is an amazing guitar player. Axl had his time. His time is long past. Now he sounds like the dude from Family Guy, Herbert. So, yeah, no. The Guns N' Roses had their time. Their time is gone. They had a lot of cool songs. They had an amazing following. But yeah, lots of controversy, lots of drama through the whole Guns N' Roses lifestyle and lifespan. And yeah, no, it's not punk either. It's glam rock.
It wasn't just about sound, it was about meaning. And to him, Guns N' Roses had none. So while Axl Rose may have been one of the biggest rock stars in the world, to Johnny Rotten, he was just another poser pretending to be dangerous. Number 4.
Okay, poser maybe. Poser pretending to be dangerous, okay, maybe. But yeah, no, Axl and Guns N' Roses were pioneers and extremely talented. with a lot of drama. They weren't really posers. They weren't even in the same genre. So,
U2. U2 is one of the biggest rock bands in the world. They formed in Dublin, Ireland, back in 1976. The band is made up of 4 members: Bono, The Edge, Adam Clayton, and Larry Mullen Jr. Over the years, they've sold millions of records and filled stadiums across the globe.
I'm not a huge U2 fan. Again, like REM, they've got some really cool songs. They did some really cool things. They've got a lot of talent in the band, but it's super mainstream, and their popularity was definitely weird back in the day. When they were at their peak, their followers and fan bases were so dedicated. Holy cow. And yeah, they had their own unique style and sound too, but they were definitely not punk. Again, why Johnny's going after these guys, I'm not quite sure.
7 album, The Joshua Tree, is still one of the most iconic albums in rock history. But, just like you guessed, Johnny Rotten can't stand them. In an interview with the Daily Star, he said something blunt and brutal. U2, that's a band that never should have existed. That's not just dislike, that's complete rejection.
Yeah.
His main problem with U2 is about authenticity. He believes punk rock should come from real life, hard times, tough feelings, and true stories. That's what he brought to the Sex Pistols. But when he listens to U2, he doesn't hear that. He once said, "There's no life experience in any of their songs." Now, U2 didn't actually come out of nowhere. In their early years, they were part of the post-punk movement. This was in the late 1970s, around the same time the Sex Pistols were breaking ground in the UK. U2 were fans of punk. They were inspired by its energy and message. But they took it in a different direction, one that Rotten didn't respect. Instead of raw anger and rebellion, U2's music became more spiritual, more polished, and more global. Bono, the band's frontman, is known for singing about love, peace, and political issues. He's also active in charity and world causes. But to Johnny Rotten, that made the band feel more like performers than true rebels.
Well, they were. But they used their fame for such amazing and good things that why are you gonna knock them for it? I think Johnny's just throwing out some big name bands because he's just salty that the Sex Pistols might have been a big band, but they were never big like everybody else because of the attitude. If Johnny hadn't had such a nasty attitude towards everybody, maybe the band would have gone a lot further and everybody would have made some good money. But seeing how he was so dead set on holding true to the punk style and punk mindset that he basically cut his head off to spite his face in an essence.
U2 was part of a bigger problem. In his mind, they represented elite, rich rock bands pretending to be deep. He thought their songs were full of big, abstract ideas, but not much real emotion. He didn't hear struggle or truth in their lyrics. To him, it was all surface. Rotten's criticism cuts deeper when you remember where he comes from. He grew up poor. His punk music came from frustration, anger, and real experience. So when he hears a band like U2, who dress the part and talk big, but come from comfort, it hits a nerve. To make matters worse, U2's style was the total opposite of the Sex Pistols. While Lydon screamed over loud guitars, U2 built smooth, echoing sounds. While the Pistols shouted, "God save the Queen," U2 were raising their fists in global unity. The difference was too big for Lydon to accept. That's why, even decades later, he hasn't changed his opinion. He sees U2 as a symbol of what happens when punk loses its fire. He believes they turned rebellion into performance, and in Johnny Rotten,
they were an alternative band. They weren't punk. It's different. He's considering things punk that aren't punk. They're alternative. Even goth and emo music is not punk. It doesn't have the we don't care attitude. that we're going to slam on our instruments and make them make noise. We're not going to use polished chords and progressive scales to make a format sound quality. We're going to get together, beat on these instruments, make songs that we call songs, yell in the microphone, get all mad, and put people on blast. It's punk, but yeah, when people try and polish it and go commercial, of course Johnny's not gonna like it.
World, that's the worst thing a band can do. Number 3, The Clash. Johnny Rotten had a complicated relationship with The Clash.
Oh, man.
While many people grouped them together as leaders of the British punk scene,
Yeah.
Rotten didn't see it that way. In fact, he had strong opinions about why he disliked the band, especially their frontman, Joe Strummer. Now, to be fair, Strummer actually admired Johnny and the Sex Pistols. He once said that after watching them perform, he knew his own band, the 101ers, it was finished. 5 seconds into their first song, "I knew we were like yesterday's papers," he admitted. He even called the Pistols a quantum leap ahead of everyone else. But while Strummer praised the Sex Pistols, Rotten didn't return the favor. Rotten often said he liked Strummer as a person. He even called him a very nice bloke in an online chat once. But he made it clear he didn't respect the Clash. He believed their songs didn't mean much. In his memoir, Anger is an Energy, he wrote that their music had no real content. He said they stood for abstract socialism and not much else. He also thought the Clash had no personality. They had nothing to offer, character development-wise. Rotten.
He sounds like a broken record. Same complaints about completely different styles of music in different bands. I mean, wow. Okay, keep on flapping, Johnny. Go ahead. What do we got to say now?
When it came to Strummer, he believed the singer was trying too hard to play a role. According to Rotten, he began to lack a sense of humor about himself. He was definitely out to grab himself a crown. Rotten's biggest issue with the Clash wasn't just their music, it was what he saw as fake politics. He said in an interview that he couldn't take their message seriously because Joe Strummer came from a wealthy background. Talk about class war, Rotten said. Joe Strummer was living in a mansion. He didn't like that Strummer dressed like a working-class punk, but came from a privileged family. To him, that was dishonest. It's important to understand where Rotten was coming from. He grew up poor, in a London council flat. His view of punk was shaped by that experience. So when he saw Strummer pretending to live the same struggle, he got angry. "To pretend to be working class drives me crazy," Rotten said. "That's what I come from and am." He even took a jab at Strummer's past, saying he was ashamed of his background. Strummer was privately educated and the son of a government official. Rotten thought that made his rebellious image fake. "My repression is not a new coat to be worn so casually," he said. In other words, Rotten believed that punk shouldn't be used as a costume or a trend. Even though the Clash supported real causes like Rock Against Racism and wrote political songs, Rotten wasn't impressed. He still said their songs didn't have any content. He dismissed them as being all image and no depth.
I'm not gonna disagree with that because I'm not really a big Clash fan. I couldn't really tell you any of their songs. They weren't that much of an influence on me at all, but the Sex Pistols really were. And a couple of these other bands were big. Green Day was a big influence on me also. And Guns N' Roses, Slash, yeah, big influence. So some of these swings were kind of like, what? Courtney Love, she was a money grab after Kurt died. She was just trying to get more money, figuring that she could make a band and do something, and she found heroin. That's what she did. She found heroin and burned all her bridges.
He stuck to that opinion for years. At one point, Rotten told The Guardian, "Nobody gives a toss about the Clash." That was a bold claim, considering how many people still love their music today. But it shows how strongly he felt. He believed the Clash didn't deserve the praise they got, and he wasn't shy about saying it. Even though the band explored many styles, like reggae, ska, and even early hip-hop, Rotten didn't care. He said nothing they did could match the raw message and impact of the Sex Pistols. That's a strong opinion, especially since Rotten only made one album with the Pistols. Still, he kept that same energy for decades.
One album? Oh, they had more than that. Never mind the bullets. But yeah, that's not really very impressive. Somebody that can be so famous with doing so little as influence so many with so little. Wow, just
Whether it was interviews, books, or chats with fans, Johnny never let go of his grudge. For him, punk wasn't just about the music, it was about being real. And in his eyes, the Clash, especially Joe Strummer, weren't. So, while many people look back on the Clash as punk legends, Johnny Rotten sees something else. He sees a band pretending to live a struggle they didn't really face. And in the world of punk, that kind of fakery was the ultimate sin. Number 2. The Ramones. The Ramones are known as one of the first real punk bands.
yeah.
They came from Queens, New York, and were often seen wearing leather jackets and jeans. Their fast, loud music made a big splash in the US punk scene. Many people saw them as heroes who helped shape punk rock. But Johnny Rotten never gave them that credit. To Rotten, the Ramones didn't seem very original. He once said in a video from 2013, "I was up and kicking a long time before them spastics." It was a rude way to say he believed his music came first and was more real. Rotten felt that the Ramones were copying a style instead of creating something honest. He didn't think their songs had any real anger or meaning. That's not all. He also thought the Ramones helped ruin punk. In an interview with The Sun, he said, "I blame the Ramones." He didn't like what punk became once the fashion side of it took over. Everyone was suddenly wearing the same studded jackets and trying to look like punks, without really being one. And in his view,
It's a style. It's a fad. It's what happens. He... Jesus Christ. Oh my God. You can't not sound punk and call yourself punk. Then again, you can't call yourself punk and not sound punk. I mean, you can't say, hey, we're a punk band and sound like Queensryche. It's just not gonna happen. You can't say you're a thrash band and sound like BB King. I mean, you've got to follow the protocols of that genre. And like with metal nowadays, metal's broken up into such little dinky subgenres that, man, you go a little bit this way, a little bit that way, all of a sudden you're in a whole new genre. And it's like, what the hell's going on? So yeah, there's tight corridors you need to hold within if you want to stay in a specific genre. And the Ramones were huge, huge. Yes, they were commercial, and yes, they were corporate, but they were still huge, and they were making their songs, so it's not like they had writers writing them songs. This isn't a Taylor Swift kind of thing.
the Ramones were the reason that shift happened. Rotten believed punk was about raw feeling and rebellion, not costumes or catchy tunes. He called the Ramones style cartoon rock, saying their music was more like a comic strip than a revolution. Even though they had fun, fast songs, Lydon didn't think they had any depth. He thought they were more about image and popularity than true punk values. But here's where it gets tricky. Rotten didn't completely hate their music. He admitted that he liked some of it. However, he couldn't support what they stood for or how the world responded to them. Their growing fame, especially in America, made punk seem more about fun and fashion and less about fighting the system. That, for Rotten, was a big problem. He also didn't like being compared to them. During punk's early days, people saw the Sex Pistols as the face of British punk and the Ramones as the leaders of American punk.
Yeah?
The media played up the rivalry, and
That's a Metallica Testament kind of thing right there. I mean, yeah, same.
added to the tension. Rotten didn't want to be grouped with a band he felt had taken the easy road. There were also deeper reasons for his dislike. Johnny Ramone, the guitarist of the band, was known for his conservative political views. Rotten, on the other hand, had a loud and wild personality. He spoke against power and systems. That kind of political clash made things even more tense between them. Still, it's important to know that Lydon's issue wasn't just personal. He believed that the Ramones helped turn punk into something fake, something for show. He thought the original meaning of punk was lost once people started copying the look and ignoring the message. To him, punk was never meant to be clean or easy to sell.
It can't be that gate kept, because then nobody's gonna be in it. If nobody's gonna be in it, then what's the point? So yeah, the more popular it gets, the more mainstream it gets. Ironically, the more anti-punk it becomes. But as long as you can keep the messages going, it should be okay. At this point, we have a lot of liberal conservative battles back and forth. And I mean, there's always the extremists where the majority is somewhere in the middle. And I mean, it's the same with back then. The arguments really, ironically, haven't changed very much, sadly. And I don't understand how we could have gone 50 years without changing the argument some, but yeah, 50 years, not a whole lot of much has been done. And we're still infighting like crazy. So, I mean, punk's got a lot of room at this point in time, because you can support either side or neither side and still kind of fill some of the gaps. You can be against both sides. Which, I mean, it doesn't even seem like that is an option at this point in time, where if you don't agree with either side, you're not with either side, so you're not supporting any of that stuff. I'm very anti-politics, anti-government, no, I don't like any of that stuff. I don't talk about any of that stuff. But at the same time, it's music. And if you're going to make music and you're going to be anti-stuff, then you can still make music about stuff as long as it's not going for that kind of stuff. So, yeah, whose toes are you going to step on, basically, is the question.
Supposed to be rough, honest, and painful. And in his eyes, the Ramones didn't match that. Even after all original members of the Ramones passed away, Lydon continued to speak critically of them. That says a lot about how strongly he felt. So while fans around the world celebrate the Ramones for starting punk, Johnny Rotten saw them as part of the problem. Number 1, Depeche Mode. Depeche Mode came onto the music scene.
They are goth alternative. They're not punk. No, see, this is where the lines being drawn between the genres comes into play. Another, probably a bunch of rich kids that daddy's money paid them to get into the studio and make an album, and then they became popular. I wasn't a big Depeche Mode fan. They had a couple of cool songs, but again, lots of bands put out 1 or 2 good songs, and these guys had a cult-like following, kind of like the Cult. Kind of surprised they didn't bring them into this.
In the early 1980s, they were a group from Essex, as England, and they helped shape a new sound, synth pop and electronic music. Their music was different from the raw guitars and loud drums of punk rock. Instead, they used machines and keyboards to create their sound.
Yep.
But while many people loved what Depeche Mode brought to music, Johnny Rotten did not. In 1989, Johnny gave an interview to Q magazine. When someone asked him about Depeche Mode, his answer was clear and sharp. A bad example of how bad things can be is Depeche Mode, who I absolutely hate, he said. Then, to make his feelings even more dramatic, he burped. Right after that, he added, "They are completely lifeless. There's no love in what they do." Rotten went on to attack their live shows. He claimed that watching them on stage was sad. "They don't move. They're not excited by what they do," he said. For him, music needed energy, emotion, and movement, and he didn't see any of that in Depeche Mode. But Rotten's anger wasn't personal. He didn't hate the band members as people. What bothered him was their use of technology in music. At the time, electronic sounds were becoming more popular. Rotten didn't like that. He said, "A lot of bands just take the easy way out. Oh, there's a computer. That'll solve all the problems."
Oh, I don't know how many times I've said that. Yep. Nope. I would rather record things and show the human mistakes. Any of the covers that I've done so far on this channel, I'm not 100% perfect on these things. I don't polish them. I make sure that I kind of figure it out and move on. So you guys get raw playing, and that's what you get here. I'm a metalhead. I've got the punk mentality. The Sex Pistols and Johnny Rotten were a big influence on me. So yeah, it's this is the way it is around here. I mean, yep. And I mean, I've got a song. I did an original. It's down in somewhere. Fight the Power. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's right along these lines. And go click on it and check it out and let me know what you think, because I mean, yeah, that's me. Guitar, bass, vocals, drums, all of it. Nobody did anything, and it's all authentic instruments, not anything computer generated. So that too. That's why I did this channel. I wanted authentic instruments without the computer generated, snap grid aligned music that there is today. I want to get away from that, get back to the roots, get back to the way things are. It's not going to be polished, it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be pretty, but it might be cool for some people. So yeah, make sure you stick around, hit that subscribe button, and watch the videos so that they keep popping up in your feed. Put them in the background, hit mute if you don't want to actually watch them. But yeah, if you see one pop up, watch it so that you're always in the loop with what we're doing around here, because we do some weird stuff. And this is a really cool video, but it shows the mentality of punk. And what it has become today is definitely nothing like what it was originally started out to be.
Believed that real music should come from real people, not machines. Back in the 70s, Rotten had...
Green Day supporting the Democrat Party. That is not punk. That's picking a side and supporting. Why? How can you be anti-establishment and then support the establishment? I mean, what?
Loudest voice in punk with the Sex Pistols. He was known for breaking the rules and pushing boundaries, but by the late 80s, things had changed. His band Public Image Ltd wasn't as powerful in the charts anymore, and new styles like synth pop were taking over. Bands like Depeche Mode were rising fast. That rise didn't sit well with Johnny, who felt left behind by a music scene that didn't look or sound like his anymore. But then, something
dogging on every aspect of it.
In 1989, just 1 month after that interview, Depeche Mode released Personal Jesus, a song that would completely shift Rotten's opinion. Years later, in his memoir, Rotten admitted he was wrong. "The people who've used it best would be Depeche Mode," he wrote. Talking about Personal Jesus, he added, "Bloody hell, mate, they got it." He praised the band for using electronic effects the right way. He said they didn't let the machines control the music. They built the song around the tech. That impressed him. He especially liked the message of Personal Jesus. Rotten wrote, "That's another tune I just absolutely love. I was so impressed with the bravery of attempting such a subject matter. It wasn't just the sound that won him over. It was the boldness of the lyrics, too. Even though he had once called them completely lifeless, Johnny had the courage to admit he was wrong. He didn't pretend he had always liked Depeche Mode. He simply said that the song changed his mind. That's rare for someone known for speaking harshly and never backing down.
That's fair.
This shift shows that Rotten's main issue was never really about the band themselves, but about how music was changing. And when a band proved they could use that new style in a meaningful way, even he could give them credit.
Okay,
Depeche Mode might not have started off in his good books, but one powerful track was enough to turn things around.
That was very interesting. Very interesting. Bands that I was definitely not expecting for reasons that I was really not expecting. I kind of suspect there's a lot of jealousy in there too, because I mean, yeah, he came from lower class, middle class, had to fight the way up, became the punk, did the punk thing, but he gatekept the punk so much And punk wasn't really going to go anywhere. Punk's always going to stay a small niche. Bands can be somewhat punk and grow and then become mainstream or commercial. I mean, nowadays it's really great because we have the internet and we don't need producers and record companies and labels and all that kind of stuff to become popular. We can make our own songs and we can produce them, record them, mix them, master them, post them, and advertise them with nobody else's help. You can be a one-man band and do what you want. I've already done it. We've got songs on the channel that I've done by myself, all myself. Lots more to come with that. Comment down below. I'm curious what you guys thought about this. I know I've stood on the hill of a metalhead, but I came from a punk background, and punk and metal are very similar. I know metal is extremely all-inclusive, where we don't care who you are, where you are, what you come from. Everybody is welcome. This is the metal community. Punk, on the other hand, seems to be a little bit more gate-kept. I've had to work for everything that I've got. I've never had anything handed to me, and I've never gotten any assistance from any government agencies. I've always made my own way. That's the way I've always been. That's the mentality that I've always had. Make your own way. Don't rely on others. I'm here to entertain you guys, give you something to watch, maybe write a song or two that the world will love. Who knows? I've got a lifetime left to do this kind of stuff, so we see what happens in the future. I appreciate all you guys clicking and hanging out with me. I know this is a bit of a longer video. There was a lot to unpack in it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.